Hello everyone and welcome to this new stream. How you doing? We're still working on Lenstracker. So for those that weren't here yesterday, Lenstracker is a simple way to basically track how long you wear your contact lenses, right? If you wear contact lenses, you know that when you need to adapt to wearing contacts, you need to go to do it by degrees, right? So you start with 2 hours a day, then you go to 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, and I believe the maximum is 12. Otherwise, the eyes get too tired, I think. Other than that, the app will be able to tell you how you can track your how long you wore your contact lenses, and other than that, how long you need to wear them to get to your goal, right? So you say by May 30th, I want to be able to wear my contact lenses for 6 hours a day. Then we should be able to generate a plan, right? For you to say, okay, so by the 15th of May, I need to be able to wear them for 4 hours. And on the 20th, I can go up to 5, etc., etc. Okay? So that's the final goal of the application. Let me just... I'll switch back to the main thing. There we go. So what we did yesterday is we worked on the goals. We chose a bit of the tech stack and talked about a little bit about the database, the DB structure. We came up with the basic stuff. Then we went on and created the migrations and the models for it using Lucid. We talked a little bit about Auth, so how it's going to work in our case, and then we implemented it using GitHub. And we implemented it in a way that hopefully should allow us to also implement like Google Auth, for example, right? So that's where we're at right now. We haven't done any styling, we haven't done any pages, we haven't done CSS except installing Tailwind, and I actually want to do a bit of that today. So in order to do that, we need to look for some inspiration, because I'm not a designer. I'm not even claiming to be good at CSS. I can kind of make my way through it, but I'm not that good. So the goal of today is to find some inspiration, put them in a mood board, see if there's anything that can actually work with our concept. So the design should be pretty simple, right? We don't want anything too complex. And so compile them into a mood board and maybe start working on something, right? Start maybe making the actual sign up page, right? Because yesterday, to implement our Auth flow, we just went to our URL and said auth GitHub redirect, right? And this should still work. I didn't break anything. No. Oh, awesome. So I created a Miro page thing, and we should be able to add some images and stuff. And the way I usually search for this kind of stuff is I usually go on Dribble or Behance or something like that. And this is kind of medical stuff, kind of. So we can maybe search for medical dashboard and see what we come up with. Okay. Ah, this is pretty good. right? We have, yeah, there we go. So we have our activity graph, or I guess you could call it our evolution graph, which is good. And then we have the calendar that could be shown here saying, okay, this is the objective for today and stuff. Here you could say your last duration, if you're on track for your goal, that kind of stuff. So let me just copy this and put it here. So that could be one thing. Let's see if we have anything else. Well, most likely start with a light theme and then maybe go with a dark if we have time. But I'm not quite sure yet. So we'll start with light, and then we should be able to adapt it quite easily. This is also something that we can look. Take maybe something that looks like this, right? So we have the basics. So we want something that is mostly light, right? Minimalistic. So we don't want any complicated shapes or complicated things or anything like that, because, well, we want it to be simple to use, right? The form should not detract from the usage or something like that. This could be okay. I don't really like the colors and stuff, but the upcoming visits thing could be the there we go. Could maybe be upcoming goals, right? If you set a goal, then if you want to reach it, then by this day you need to do that, right? So let's get this one, and can I crop it? Yeah, there we go. Custom. And what I'm interested in is this section right here. Yeah, this section right here. And can I maybe get some text in here? Yeah. And let's say goal tracker. Let's make it a bit bigger. Perfect. Awesome. So okay, no, I don't know what I'm doing here. So let's remove this. We have our two images. You stay right here. And we have the goal tracker idea. Let's see if we can find something else. So this is gonna be a pretty chill live stream, right? We're not going to do anything too complicated because, I mean, it's Sunday, right? So don't want to do anything too complex, but I at least want to get going with this project. I usually don't do this planning stage. I usually just get into coding. But this time I wanted to actually treat this as if it's a real project, right? It's not just something that I can do to practice my skills. So let's see. Let's see. Okay. Okay, this is a bit too complex. So I believe this should be enough. This should be enough. So we have our basic stuff. Cool. Now, there are a few things that I still want to set up before we actually get into developing. The first thing is I want to look at sign-in screens. See if we have any nice ideas. I mean, except the basics, right? This one is pretty common. So we can put this in here. There we go. Let's see if we have anything else. Yeah, usually something like this, right? So you have the on the left side, you have a little card that says, say, sign into your account. You have your social things, and we won't have password authentication, so you only have your social things. And then usually the other half of the page is the is an image that represents the application, right? So we can also do something like this. And what else? Let's see. Yeah, this is okay. So there's nothing much. We could maybe go with the let's say Glassmorphism thing and do something like this. This could also be kind of cool. The only problem is if we go this route, then we should probably do the whole app, right? Using Glassmorphism, or because otherwise it just looks out of place, right? So we should pick a style and then stick to it. And let me see if I can find some more info. Glassmorphism. No. There we go. What is Glassmorphism? Frosted glass effect. Backgrounds are blurred behind semi-transparent panels. Okay. Okay, so yeah, neumorphism is what I'm not usually doing that, but that's what I usually tend toward. Glassmorphism and Aurora, apparently. What is Aurora UI? New visual trend for 2022. Designing gradient effect that resemble the Northern Lights. I mean, yeah, okay. Yeah, sure. And then we have Neumorphism. And Neumorphism is just something like this. And what the hell? Neumorphism. Yeah. Okay, this may be a bit too blocky, right? Let's see. And to extrude from the background, trace shape made from the exact same material. It's pretty easy to achieve. I mean, yeah, sure. Problem, accessibility, and ways to efficiently code this. Okay. So we should probably just stick with, I mean, I wouldn't even call it neumorphism. I would just call it probably material. It's not even material. It's not like inspired by Google and stuff. I mean, by material UI and material design. But something like that should probably, or would probably work best for what we want to do. So let's see. Do we have anything else in here? Articles. Okay, so no, this is some kind of course. Oh, we don't really want that. Okay. So let's say we want to do something like this. Or something like this. Let's go with something like this, and then maybe we'll break it down and make it look a bit better like that. So let's say we'll have a /login thing, right? So for now it's not defined, obviously. But if we go back to our code, then we can go to our app controllers, Auth Controller, and let's have a public login. Okay, let me just disable. There we go. So in our login method, we basically just want view from our HTTP context, because this is just return view that render, and we'll do pages/login. So the controller is wired up. Then we need to go to our routes and say router.get on /login, and we'll do the Auth Controller and the login method of the Auth Controller. And now if we go back to our browser, we can see cannot resolve the file, right? Because we didn't create the file yet. And for that, we want to make a file in resources, views, pages, login.h, because remember we're using the Edge templated language. And let's just save this for now. And if I go back to my browser, then we pages. Okay. Resources, views, pages, login.h. That's what I've written. But let's see, let's just do something like this. And if I go back, okay, so we are actually we're actually loading the correct page, which is great. Now, we do have one problem, right? Let's go back to our code right here. And let's look at our homepage. So our homepage contains all the HTML basics, right? The doc type, the HTML tag, the head tag, the body tag, and it actually includes all the resources that we need. So our .css and .js file. The one thing we need to do before we actually get on working in our login page is create a layout component, right? So we need to have the skeleton of every page that we'll need to display in a common place so that we can set some nice defaults and maybe we'll be able to change them according to the page and stuff. So maybe we don't want the header menu on our login page, for instance. So let's see how we can do that with Edge. If I go to references, Edge, and here is the Edge, the actual Edge documentation. So how can we do components? We just create a .edge file, and then we can just use the component like this. Okay, should be easy enough, right? So I'll make resources views components. There we go. And then I'll create a file, resources views components, layout.edge. And let's go back to our home. And basically, we'll just yank all of this, put it in here, remove all this stuff, have our main tag here, and then save this. And if we go back to our things here, we can look at slots. Slots are named outlets. And so we can do something like this. Main and name slots. There we go. This is the main thing right here. So if we can put it in here. Awesome. So now, there we go. So now if we go to our home, I can remove all of this. And I could simply do at layout and then end. And hopefully this works. Let's see if I'm quite so lucky. Okay, so we didn't break anything. And if so you won't be able to see this quite yet, but if I change the title to read Lenstracker, for example, and the title right here gets updated. So we're actually reading from the layout. Awesome. Now, let's do the basics. So we have our header. Let's have a footer with just a paragraph for now. Copy. For now, let's just hard code this. And then let's close the footer. like this. And if we go back to our web browser, this gets displayed and works as expected. So if we go back to our code and we want to do some basic styling, right? So let's do class. And here, so here we'll do a flex 1. And here we'll do hscreen, w4, and then flex and flex call. And let's see. And on our HTML, we want to have a margin 0, padding 0. And let's see. Why doesn't it like what's happening? Do we have an issue with loading styles? I think so. The console does not have errors. We're loading the CSS file. So that's good. Do we have an issue in our Tailwind config? / resources, everything, and then that edge. So resources, views, and then any page inside here and anything .edge. Just to be safe, let's restart the dev server. And now, okay, now it works as intended. Awesome. So what I basically did is I said, okay, so let's consider the whole body is a flex container. There's a column, and the main body takes as much space as it can. So if we inspect this element, you see the main takes all the page except what the footer needs. That allows us to have a easy layout, right? Then we can do whatever we want inside of it, but that's the basics. So now we can go back to our login page, because this is what we were working on. So let's use our layout component. And inside of here, we'll have a div with full, h4, and then we'll probably do a grid. And by default, we'll have a grid calls 1, and on the empty breakpoint, it will have a grid calls 2. And close this. And inside of here, we'll have the first div here, which will contain our card. So something like this is a card. And then we'll have the second div and a paragraph that says, here goes the image, or something like this. And so if we go back here, this is a card, here goes the image. So we have a problem. Okay. What's the problem? What seems to be the problem? Main. Inside the main, we have the slots.main. Footer, the body HTML. Okay, so this is fine. And let's see. Oh, okay. Yeah, got it. So we have this grid, right? And this element, I mean, what? So we have the first div, which is good. Then we create another div and open it up here. And then we have another div here that we close down, and then we close this one here. Okay. And if I look in here, I have the main, which is good. Then we have the div, the first half. And then this closes, and then we have this right here. So just to be safe, again, let's give it a restart. Okay, I hope that would have been fixed easily enough. Let's go back to our code and see what we can do. So let's remove everything. So far, we should only have one container, right? So we have the main and then a div. So far, so good. Now, if we add a paragraph, this is the first half. And then we'll have a second one, since this is the second half. Okay. So now we have, what the hell? Oh, I see. Yeah. And now it works. I forgot to close the div right there. Awesome. Awesome. Not awesome that I didn't close the div, but awesome that we solved it easily. So let's do a first div, which will be the container, right? So we'll do a w4, h4, flex call, justify center, and item center. And then we'll do another div. And this div, for now, we'll just do a padding 4, for example, and bg red 500. So now we're just placing the, we want to place the card, right, at in the center of the page. So if we take a look at this, we can see that we have, let's take a look at this one. So we have the main page, the half of the page is an image, and the other half is a white background, or at least a light gray background. And then the card is in the center of it with the logo and all the text and all the buttons and whatever else, right? So this is what we're trying to achieve. So let's go back here and let's do, so we won't do the BG red 500, but let's have, so this is the card, right? So we'll have another div that will be the card header with a, I guess, an h1, that will say welcome to Lenstracker. And this h1 will have a class of, let's do text XL font bold. And let's add a bit of a shadow here, just so we can see it. And if we go to the nav, we can see the card is beginning to take shape. Right. And if we restrict the thing, then the grid shifts to 1, and so we'll only have the card. And later on, we'll deal with the second half, right? So the second half will only show if there are two elements. If the column, the grid is a 2-column layout. So it won't show on mobile because we don't need to load that image on mobile. So let's go back to our code. So this is the title, and then we'll have another div, for example, where we can have, let's do a flex call. And inside of here, we'll have another div for the content. Right. To access this service, please sign in using one of the providers below. And then we'll have another div, and the div will be a W4. I mean, we don't need to specify it, but I like it for as basically syntactic sugar. So we'll have a width 4, and then flex and flex wrap. Why wrap? Because if we do the buttons a bit too big, then we want to be able on mobile, we want them to be able to show one below the other and not overflow, basically. So we'll have the first one here, which will be signing using GitHub. And a second one, which will be signing using Google. And let's do justify between. We go back here, we have the text, the title, the bit of text, and then our two buttons. And we'll space them out right away. Let's first do the buttons. If we look here, the button is pretty simple, right? There's a bit of padding, and then there's a small border, and the border is a bit rounded. So that's what we'll do next. So let's switch back and let's do something about this. So we'll do class, and for now let's do a padding 2, border black, for example. And so we're getting there. We may want to have 2 on the horizontal and maybe 1 on the vertical. 2 is maybe a bit much. So instead of P2 like this, we'll do PX2 and PY1. And we'll do a rounded empty. And that's a bit better. Let's see. Maybe there's a bit of a shadow and the border is not quite black. It's maybe a a gray thing. So let's do that. Let's do border gray 200 and then a small shadow. And that's a bit better, right? If we zoom in, you can see it looks a bit better. So let's just copy this and copy it. And let's do sign in using Google. So we have our two buttons. Now, let's space it up a bit. So first things first, we want here, not here, sorry. We want our text to be centered. Because it just looks a bit prettier, right? And once we have that, then we can do, so let's see. Do we have anything, anything where we have text? Yeah, here it is, right? So we have the main text, then there's a bit of spacing, then a bit more spacing, and then all the buttons and stuff. So we probably could do something like that. So let's have, let's add a bit of margin, and also in here. Maybe let's do a bit more. Maybe 8 is a bit too much. Okay, so now the title is a bit more detached. And let's do the same thing for here. Instead of 2, let's do 4. Okay, that's a bit better. Now that's a bit better. What we can also do is add some icons, right? Because we need to, I mean, right, we'd like to have the GitHub icon here and the Google icon here and stuff like that. So how can we do that? Let's see. Response. Digging deeper. That's probably not it. Edge helpers. Is it in here? Yeah, SVG icons. There we go. Awesome. So we need the Edge Iconify package, and then create. So let's do that first. So I'll just do npm install Edge Iconify. And let's wait for it to complete. And while that is done, that's what it needs to do. Let's see. Fundamentals. Scaffolding. Let's see. I'm basically looking at how I could implement this stuff here, right? Registering the plugin with Edge, because I already did it once, and I remember it's not as simple as creating a file and doing this. There are some other things that you need to do. So let me just go look at, I should have done it maybe in this repo. And I remember it was in the start. Yeah, I created a view file and then did this. Awesome. So let's do that. So it would be start view.ts. And then we can just paste this in. And we don't need this one. We don't have those for now. So we don't need to register this. And then we can just load this in. And then run dev. Nothing breaks. Okay, so nothing broke, which is great. Yeah, nothing broke. Awesome. So what we need is, let's look at Iconify. And if we search for GitHub, we have this icon right here. Yeah, let's do this one for now. So it's MDI GitHub, which means we need to install the MDI icon set. Because as we can see here, we need to install all the bundles. So instead of Iconify JSON hero icons, we'll do Iconify JSON MDI. Yeah, whatever. And now we can import icons as MDI icons from the package that we just installed, right? So Iconify JSON MDI, and we can just call maybe here add collection MDI icons. And if we start back up our server back up, still nothing broke. And let's see, what do we need to do if we want to use the icons? Yeah, we want to inline it within some markup. So we can do something like this. Obviously, we need to replace hero icons and archive box, but you get the idea. And what do we replace them with? With MDI :GitHub. So let's do that. Let's go back to our code. And in our login, in here, we can go and say this and replace it with MDI GitHub. And hopefully this should work. SVG is not a function. Okay, that sucks. Did I forget a step? Maybe I didn't register the view in the AdonisRC. Let's see. Yeah, we didn't do the import in the AdonisRC file. So it's a list of modules to import before starting the application, right? And since we configure Edge, we need to tell Adonis, hey, there's this config file somewhere that you need to read. So let's do that. Let's go back to our code and do the AdonisRC. And let's go to our preloads and add a comma There we go. And I messed up the parentheses. So let's just close this down. There we go. And now if we go back to our page and reload it, we have our GitHub icon. Awesome. Only issue is now it messed up all the layouts, right? So we can do something about it by going to our login template and in here say it's an inline flex. And this or maybe not. Oh, I mean, it's not the right one. So inline flex. And let's do items center. And if we go back and look at what we did, this is much better. And then we can add some spacing, right? So we can do, I guess, can we do SpaceX too? Space 6, 4. Okay, no, that doesn't do much. Let's do. Can we specify some arguments in here? Apparently so. We can do width, height, color, and optional set of attributes. So we should be able to specify a class thing, right? So if we go to code and say here we have a class of, let's add some padding to the right of the icon. So let's do PR4. And does this help? Or maybe let's add some margin. Yeah, okay. And if we go to the nav, now it's a bit better. And the icon could be a bit bigger, maybe, but that is something that we can handle later. Now, now that we have this, what we can also do is we can actually populate the URL, right? Because for now the href is empty, but we'd like it to point to our redirect method. So what we can do is take a look at, I think it's called path route. So redirect from a route, groupie route identifier, render view from a route, extended router. Okay, so that's not it. Views and templates. So this is how you render it. So this is what we already did. There we go, right? This is what we did. So we made a preload view. I mean, I just created the file, but using Ace would have actually added the config line to the AdonisRC file that we didn't have. So that's fine. And then if we go here, do we have something here? Route. There we go. So we can do route, then give it a name and the list of parameters. So for example, if I go back to my code and if I go to the routes, the provider redirect doesn't actually have a name. So we can do something like as and say maybe something like auth.redirect. And once we have that, then in our login edge, inside the href tag, we can go and say route to auth.redirect. And the first parameter, which is the provider, remember? The provider in this case will be GitHub. And if I go back to the browser and reload this, now it actually points to /auth/github/redirect. And if we click here, then we go through the whole shenanigan, the whole authentication flow and whatever, and then we actually get back to the homepage, which is awesome. Which means this works. And once I'll have set up also the Google authentication, then we'll also add a URL there, and it will just work, which is awesome. Now, I suggest we take a small break of maybe 5 to 10 minutes. And once we do that, we'll go back, implement the second half. So the actual, we'll look for an image, we'll save the image, we'll see how we can load assets using Adonis. And once all that is done, we'll see what we do next. Maybe just continue working on the authentication and actually handling the different things, right? So if the user already has an ID, or if the email associated has a different GitHub ID or a different Google ID, whatever, maybe we'll basically do all the error handling for that section right there. Okay, so let's take a small break and then reconvene and do all that. See you guys in about 10 minutes. So let's get back to what we were doing, right? We need to look for an image. So I usually go to Pexels. So Pexels, and I mean, probably won't get what we want, but let's look for lenses. Okay, this one could be nice. Let's do contact lenses. This one is also nice, I think. Yeah, this one's maybe a bit too on the nose, and let's see. Let's see. Okay, so it's either this one, which may be a bit more symbolic, or this one, which is a bit more clinical. Let's say. So, I mean, I'd rather something like this, maybe. Yeah. Let's do this one. So I'll download it to my downloads folder. And then, because I'm using WSL, I'll just create a directory. So resources, assets. Yeah, I'll just resources, images. And then I'll just copy mount C users, downloads, and what's it called? Pexels. So let's do Pexels to resources, images, login image.jpg. There we go. And so now if I list what's your resources images, then we get our login image.jpg. Awesome. So once we have that, let's look at how we can use static assets in Adonis. So HTTP, views and templates, static file, no. Asset bundling, edge helpers, where is it? Asset, there we go. So resolve the URL of an asset processed by Vite. Vite. Learn more about referencing assets. There we go. So processing additional assets with Vite. In our app.js, we can do an import and meta.glob, and then everything else, right? So let's do that. So let's go open up our app.js. Let's remove the hello world and yeah, whatever. So we can do an import .meta.glob, and then we can do so we can do one up, and then images, and everything inside images. And what this will do is it will tell Vite to import all of the stuff that's inside that folder and bundle it and process it as if it were part of its bundle, right? So now I can restart my server, and if I go to login, we can replace this with a div. Into a div class something, and let's do w4 h4 pg cover, and then let's do style and background image URL. And what's the URL? It's the asset call that we saw earlier, right? So it's asset, asset, and then it's resources / images, then login image.jpg. / login image.jpg. And this, does this work first try? Okay, so it kind of works. I mean, it does work. It's just that there's the footer that cuts the image, right? But that's not really an issue. Not right now. We have our image, we have our text, everything works fine. Everything works fine. Everything works fine. And let's just see. So yeah, let's just copy the attribution. And for now, let's just do something like this. And so we just added the attribution in here. And let's go and select all this stuff. And let's put it in an href. Damn it. There we go. It's not the prettiest thing that's going to be shown, but still. So if we go back to the nav, then we have the attribution in here. And I could, okay, so let's actually position it like we want to position it. So we'll do, this is going to be a position of relative. And this will be a position of absolute, bottom 0. And this should already position it quite nicely. And maybe we can do a text gray 500. Oh, let's make it a bit. So maybe 200. And so we can see the attribution in here. And if we click it, then we go to the pixel picture. Yeah, awesome. So because the image is not ours, right? It's the least we can do to actually give credit to the one that took it. And once we have done that, then this page is mostly complete. I mean, at least for now, right? We don't really have any text written. This is just basic stuff. We will need to optimize this picture because if we take a look at this page, let's see, sources, images, and let's look at the network. This is, it's not so heavy. It's 145 bytes because Vite, because Vite does a bit of a optimization for us, but still we should probably store it as WebP or something. So I can do that off camera and it will still work fine. What we need to do next is maybe finish up a bit our layout, because if we sign in, so we have our footer, which is great. We still need our header, right? We need a menu of some sort. So let's start working on that for the remainder of this stream. We'll maybe do, let's see, maybe another 20 minutes or so. And let's go to our layout. And inside our body, we'll create a header. And our header will have a div with a tag with a ref to slash. We'll say Lenstracker. There we go. Can close this div. And we'll have a nav ul le li and an a tag, which for now will just be something like I don't know, /goals maybe. There we go. And /li /ul /nav. And the only thing we want to say to this div is wfull flex item center and justify between, and maybe do padding x4. And if we go back here, now we have our nav. So we have our Lenstracker, and then all the way down here we have our goals. And then we can display some other stuff like let's maybe do user full name, probably. So let's do something. We'll add this, and we'll add another list item. Something that says like, hi. Okay, so let's not do it like this. This is conditional, right? So it's only if of that is authenticated. So if this exists, then we create a list item, the p inside that says something like, hey, auth.user.full name. Something like this. And then we close down something like this. And if we go here, now we have our goals and then hey, the name of the currently logged in user, which is great. Now we need to tell you what, let me just quickly check HTML nav element, and then you have OL or UL. Okay. Section of the page whose purpose is to provide navigation. Common example, menu, tables, or contents and indexes. Identify a major block of navigation. Okay. User agents can use this element to determine whether to emit initial rendering. Okay, so we have the right structure. So I do need the UL inside the nav. Okay. So now if I go back to our code, then I can say, again, flex and item center. And let's do justify between. And let's maybe give a bit more padding just to the nav. PX4. That doesn't change much. Okay. Let's maybe do flex item center, justify between. Maybe do a bit of margin. Space X4. There we go. If we take a look at this, now we have them aligned horizontally, and then there's a bit of spacing. That's great. And what we can do next is maybe do a bit of styling for this. So let's do, oh, damn it, apologies. So let's do font bold and text XL. Okay, so that's a bit better. That's a bit better. How is this aligned? This seems to be properly aligned. Everything's good. The real question is, do we box the content or not? That's the real question, and the one I don't really have an answer for right now. Because, again, disclaimer, not a designer. Let's look at this. Okay. Well, this is... So they have a vertical navigation. We don't really need a vertical nav since we'll have basically two to three links. And I mean, we won't have much scrolling either. So that's that. And let's do... let's see. I think we've done enough, probably. I mean, most of the work was here, right? Tell you what, let's add the Google icon here, just so we can call it a day. I'll do something like this, then I'll yank the whole line, put it here, remove this, and let's say Google, and instead of MDI GitHub, I'll do MDI Google, and this hopefully this should just work. And it just works. Ain't that great? So let's recap a bit what we did on stream today. We did some basic Moodboard visualization thing, right? We did the authentication page. We learned how to do asset bundling, how to load icons using Edge, and we built the basic layout for the rest of our website. So the header, the footer, and we properly handled authentication. I mean, properly handled. We properly allowed the user to navigate to the authentication section. Oh, I know what we can do before we close this down. So you see, we don't really want the header here, right? It kind of breaks stuff here. So let's see what we can do. Is there a default? So in our layout, what we can do is say if not header, if header is undefined or header. So if we don't define the variable, or if we set it true, then we want to display the header. So what this means is that if I go to my login page and say say I think it's something like, let me see if I can find something. So it's template state, and then we can do, let. There we go. So if I do let config equals false. It changes absolutely nothing. Awesome. What if I put it inside the layout? Still nothing, huh? I mean, it's not config. I'm just dumb. It's header. And if I put it before the layout, okay. What did I break? Let's see. So cannot resolve login.edge. Okay, I don't know what happened. Maybe I deleted the page without meaning to. Why not? So if I do this, let's do it differently. Let's say the layout and then header is false. There we go. So because we're in a component, and just by the way, this is what gets shown, right? If I disable the header, because we're in a component, in a component, what happens is I can pass props like you would in a React or Svelte or Vue or whatever, or even handlebars, Twig, Django, Blade, whatever templating engine, right? I can pass in props, and inside the component, I can read those props. So if I don't pass any props, or if I set it as true, then we show the header. Otherwise, we don't. Meaning that if I go here and actually specify header to be false, it means I explicitly don't want my header to show, then it won't show, right? And I guess we could do the same for the footer, but again, we don't really need it right now. So right now, this is what our application looks like. And if I sign in, then I go here, and here, since I didn't disable the header, then you can see the header at the top of the page. And what we'll do next time is we'll probably work on some colors, try to work out a bit of a color scheme. And once that is done, then we'll actually start to work on functionality. Or I guess we might maybe do the opposite. We'll see. As you can probably hear and guess by the order we do things on stream, I don't really plan this in advance. I mean, not right now, at least. So with all that said and done, I wish you all a good evening and a good weekend, and I'll see you next time.